Hello everyone. Good evening, welcome. Welcome to Reiki Australia's first online webinar to celebrate our 20th anniversary and also as part of 100 years of Reiki. So it's so nice to see all of your faces here. I'm Nicole Bennett, so I'm the chair of Reiki Australia. And tonight we will be speaking with Johannes, and it will be about Reiki into the future and perspectives from a lineage bearer. So I'm absolutely so humbled and so honoured to have this opportunity. And I'm really looking forward to sharing this conversation with everybody tonight. So welcome. We have got Amy with us from the Reiki Australia team tonight as well, who will be helping out from the technical side of things. So just a couple of housekeeping issues. If everyone could remain muted for the session, that would be really helpful. And also, if you'd like to ask any questions, we're really happy and would love for it to be interactive. So if you do have questions, just pop those into the chat box to Reiki Australia, and we will have a live question and answer session at the end. So we would like to go through all of those. So to officially, before we officially start, I would like to ask everyone to join us for 5 minutes of self-Reiki. You're welcome to leave your camera on, or you can switch your camera off if you're more comfortable. So we'll just do 5 minutes of self-Reiki, followed by an acknowledgement of country, and then we'll go straight into our evening. Thank you. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and internationally. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Thank you for your continued care and connection to culture, community, land, sea and sky. May we all walk gently on this land and protect our waters for future generations. Thank you, everybody. It's always beautiful to start with some self-Reiki, so thank you. Now I have the absolute pleasure of introducing our very special guest for this evening, Johannes Reindl. Johannes is recognised as the lineage bearer and Grand Master of Usui Shiki Ryoho. He grew up and lives in Austria, where he was exposed to Reiki from a very young age, learning first and second degree Reiki as a teen, and then spending many years practicing and traveling as an interpreter at Reiki events with Phyllis Furumoto. In 2017, Johannes was initiated as a Reiki master in Kyoto, Japan by Phyllis. And then in 2019, with Phyllis's passing, he became her successor as the new lineage bearer. We are absolutely extremely blessed and honoured and grateful to have you to celebrate here with us today, Johannes. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
It's a pleasure, an absolute pleasure. So you were just saying before you've been doing a little bit of a tour around Europe and in Spain at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just started traveling, what was it, 2 weeks ago? Almost 2 weeks ago. I traveled first to the Netherlands, where there was a big Reiki festival. After 2 years of pandemic and isolation and not meeting, that was a big thing. Many people being very happy. And then I continued my journey. I traveled to France, where I taught the first degree class. Then I continued to travel to Spain, where there was also students gathering. And now I have a few days with friends at the beach. And then I'm going back to Madrid, where we will have a meeting with Reiki masters initiated by Phyllis Leifer-Moto. So, and traveling in Europe is quite easy by train.
Yeah.
So all these little journeys by train, it makes it, very nice.
It must be lovely to be back traveling and being able to have that personal connection once again.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, Johannes, I was wondering if you wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit about your history and your experience with Reiki.
Well,
it's a big question.
Well, it is, and it is also not, and I'm just thinking how to start, as I speak about this quite often, and I just see many familiar faces here. So I hope if some people hear my story for the second or maybe even more often already, that you don't get bored. Well, I got in touch with Reiki at a very young age because one of my mother's best friends, they had been together in nursing school many years ago. She was practicing Reiki in the mid-80s, 86 or so, and which was in Austria at that time something very extraordinary, because Austria had been and sometimes still is very conservative, very held very firmly by the Roman Catholic Church. So in the 80s, everything that was a little bit alternative was not so widely spread as in other parts of the world. But anyway, so whenever I stayed with her, which was often, I felt, well, when she's touching me, something is different. Something is there that's not like with the others. And this could also be because I felt always very close and very, very safe. In a way, she was like kind of the second mother, so to speak. But anyway, I felt, well, when I'm growing up, I will do what she is doing. And then another few years later, another very close friend of my mother, she's a Reiki master. And well, I just signed up for a class, and I think I found what many of us find when we start practicing Reiki, this feeling of coming home, this feeling of maybe some inner connecting with some inner sacredness, or however we call this. We all have our own words for this experience. For me, it was a profound coming home, and I don't know how to say, what was it actually? It was a deep relief. It supported me in this whole process of growing up and becoming an adult, of going through this process of taking on responsibility for life, where I think we all go through this process of, let me go, I can do this on my own, and please hold me at the same time. And there, practicing Reiki was the best I could do and the best I could find at that time. At that time, I was still going to school, I think it's high school in your country, I don't know. And then another year later, I did then second degree. And then half a year later, I finished school. Was that right? Yeah, I finished school. And then I was working as a helping nurse, so to speak, in a geriatric hospital. Because in Austria, at the age of 18 or 19, all young men, they have to go to military service or to civil service. They can choose. And if you choose civil service, then you very often work in hospitals, geriatric hospitals, in institutions who take care for people with disabilities in that field. And I happened to work in a geriatric hospital where I would not say that I offered Reiki treatments in that sense of a full treatment, but I kind of offered my hands, because, well, we were all working with our hands, supporting people for their physical care, for supporting them eating and all that, what they needed. So the hands were all over the place anyway. And quite often I just felt Reiki working there, guiding me what to do, where to put my hands. It was also a time where I encountered many people dying, of course, because geriatric hospital, for many, that was the time of also preparing for their transition. And there again, Reiki was, I'm going to say, it was not just simply support, it was really guidance through this process of working. Because as civil servants, we did not have any training before. We were just thrown into the cold water, so to speak. And we did not have many, well, I didn't have any experience how to work with people in that situation. So having Reiki was a deep source for myself, but also then I realized how it can serve others. Without that had been on my intention. It was not, I did not have planned that. And yeah, and around that time, I think it was also that I got to know Phyllis maybe a little earlier. I think Phyllis I met the first time end of summer 1997, because she did a student gathering in Germany. But 98, I met then Paul Mitchell, because I attended a Ki Aikido workshop he offered in Northern Germany. And through that, I then connected with the larger, more international Reiki community. And well, it continued to be out there. And then one thing led to the other. I have met Phyllis, and then she asked me if I could interpret for her. And then, well, and then I was on the road. And yeah, more or less, that's it in a nutshell. Yeah.
How beautiful to go from being able to use Reiki in that civil service to then come full circle. Yeah,
it really was. And also to learn that when practicing Reiki, we might have good ideas and good intention and good plans, but once Reiki is taking over, then Reiki is taking over, right?
Yeah.
And to experience that and also feel safe, or in a different way than usually feeling safe, right? Often I felt, well, when Reiki is guiding, then we might do things we would not do otherwise, or we would not encounter people or situation in the way we do when we are connecting in Reiki. And so with that, I feel on one hand blessed and full of gratitude, and also often kind of stunned. What is really going on there? Who is in charge of all this?
Yeah.
And often also a bit like, well, let's see what's happening now. We have this project here with Reiki, but who knows? Who knows what direction it's going? So to stay open and to remain maybe humble, or to follow that stream of energy, to learn that, I found very helpful and important. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's a really beautiful lesson with Reiki that I found for myself as well, is following, it's not for us to decide what the outcome is. Reiki will go and be, and the outcome will be for that person's highest good, rather than what we intended possibly to be. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Right.
Definitely. Yeah.
And that's maybe one of the biggest challenges to accept and to learn with. I would say, I mean, speaking for myself, this is a lifelong learning process, that I can relax. My busy, rational mind can relax and let go. And Reiki knows better, and I don't need to know better. I can be there and observe and learn and be present. And of course, be mindful and be present and do what needs to be done. But that there is a greater source or greater wisdom accessible for all of us in a very simple way and in a very effective way. Yeah, that's still outstanding. And I'm practicing now since quite a while, and still it's every day is kind of, oh wow. And sometimes it's like, what the is going on here?
It's quite remarkable, isn't it?
Yes,
I think the power and simplicity of Reiki is just something that we need to experience it. It's not something you can just learn from a textbook or doing the class. It's until you've actually put that into practice and yeah, watch that play out over and over again. Yeah, absolutely remarkable. Yeah. So in 2019, when you as far as I'm aware, that was a surprise for you to become the new lineage bearer. What was that process like for you personally, and how do you feel that's changed either, or has it changed? It may not have changed yourself and your Reiki practice.
Well, you know, this whole process of succession was well prepared on one hand, because there was a group who had met since 2016 in September. We met regularly every second Tuesday of the month. We met online on Zoom to prepare and to talk about the process of succession and how this could unfold and what we see, what's important, all that. This was a group that was invited by Phyllis herself and by Paul. And before this group, there were, I think, 5 or 6 workshops. They were called succession weekends. And in these weekends, also groups of people prepared and engaged in deep conversations around this topic. And out of these in-person meetings, we then met online, because Phyllis saw, well, there's much more work to do and we need to meet more often. And so there was a lot of preparation and a lot of conversations. We went in all different directions, from maybe not having a successor to having a little group who would take the responsibility. We went in all directions. We explored a lot about what is the quality of community, what is the richness, what does the community need, and much, much more. And so for me, this whole time was quite a stretching, because at the same time I was preparing with Phyllis for my mastery. I was a master candidate with her from 2013, I think, October 2013, till she then initiated us in me and my group in Kyoto in 2017. So on one hand, to prepare for my mastery with my master, and at the same time being in a group to prepare with the group for that time that my master will not be there anymore. So that was quite a stretch and quite a challenging process, of course, in which I learned a lot of inner willingness of letting go of my own plans and of my own ideas about my life and what I want to do, but also to learn to serve something larger, to serve a community, to serve a system of practice. We did that work together with Ben Haggard, who was a very close friend of Phyllis. And he was trained and offers trainings in regenerative thinking. Very different way of thinking, I would say, as looking at myself. I'm very used to think linear, one step after the other, and then you have the goal. But with Ben, we learned to escape out of this kind of maybe prison way of thinking, to broaden the way to see the world, to see us in the community, and to see what we need. In the beginning, for many of us, this was very challenging, because we thought we just don't understand what he's talking about. I, in the beginning, always blamed that English is not my first language. That's the reason why I don't understand, till I found out the others don't understand it either. But this was the challenging and the learning process in this new way of thinking. The questions he gave us were not so difficult as such, but they just triggered a different brain part, maybe. So this all together supported the group, supported Phyllis, supported her in her process of succession and what to do and whom to recognize, or who to what quality she would have to recognize and look at in a person. And still it came as a surprise, because I was not thinking at all that this could be me, because in my understanding it would have been or should have been someone who has a lot of experience in teaching Reiki. I might have had already many years in practicing Reiki, but not in teaching. In fact, I have taught 2 classes before Phyllis recognized me. So that's really not a lot. It's just baby beginner steps, right? So when then later I was recognized, and many in the community, well, some in the community were pointing at that and kind of criticizing that, I thought, well, yeah, I agree fully. You're totally right. I mean, I'm the baby here, so to speak. But the way Phyllis listened to the community and was very self. And asked to let go of the concept of spirituality, so that there would be community understanding. There is a group who holds that role of lineage bearer and grandmaster, or hold a person who holds that role. In their understanding, out of that, there are differences, there are vision, or there is worry that this could create more conflict, and so on. And if Phyllis would drop that, then there would. So what Phyllis did was, she listened to everybody, to many people. She listened to the community deeply. She listened to herself deeply. She listened to the practice deeply. And then she made her choice, or she made her decision. And so when she recognized me in her home in Arizona, in the United States, because she had called me if I could come and interpret at the workshop. And I went there just hoping I could see her once more. That was more my intention, or that supported my willingness, maybe. And when she then recognized me with the simple words, "Johannes, you are it. You're my successor," I was, I still feel the same moment. I feel I was speechless. I had not many words, and that's what I said to her. I don't know what to say. And she then said, "Well, of course you can say no." And I said, "Well, I don't know if this is an option here." We did not have much time then later, because I had my flight back to Austria. We had 2 days or so, and I spent almost every minute with her, also knowing that this would be the final time together, because she was terminally ill. And it were still moments where I received so much teaching. Interestingly, this was another level of teaching. I connected from day one, when I connected with her many years before, this silent teaching without words. I often felt there was something going on from body, I could not ask for. I just felt it was happening. Being with Phyllis and sitting next to her, it always felt to me that she's breathing in and breathing out just energy, just this constant coming through her. And when I then had time alone with her, and I offered my hands for treatments, because she had a lot of pain, we barely talked. I mean, looking back, this could have been my time of asking important questions, maybe, but I didn't. I just felt in this sacred space with her, and this sacred space, and just be silent. And it changed a lot. It transformed, it changed a lot inside of me, and everything remained the same at the same time. It was right after I traveled home, and then Phyllis had announced to the Reiki communities that she had recognized me as her successor. Then there started a very painful time for me, because I felt very vulnerable. very much exposed. Of course, many people, it's beautiful and wonderful, but I was not to connect with such a large group. Am I frozen? No.
No, Johannes, you're cutting only slightly, but we can still hear and understand what you're saying. But as I say it, you're becoming a little bit more frozen.
I'm doing. Okay. So if it would help, but just let me know if I would help. I could take down my video if that would help everything.
Why don't you try? And if we need to do anything differently, I can let you know.
Going? You want me to try to take my video down?
Yes, take your video down and we'll see how we go. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, let's see. So where have I been? So being exposed or being so, I always had this picture like as if Phyllis would have thrown me out into the ocean and said very loudly in the background, swim if you can. And then I was out there in this ocean of community and ocean of Reiki. And it was a profound teaching in letting go, in surrendering, in connecting differently with myself, in also acknowledging and accepting my resistance. I learned that my yes is only complete if I also show up with my no, with my worries, with my maybe anger. I understood and learned that just for today, do not anger. Just for today, do not worry. Does not mean not to have worry or not to have anger, but to be willing to look beyond and see what's available there. And then I started to travel a lot and connect with many in the community, and we had many plans also for 2020. And then the pandemic came. And then it's to stay at home and to work there, which was, to be honest, a little bit of a relief also to have possibility to stay at home. And what I will do, the room and go to a place, maybe there. I'm take you. My Wi-Fi connection is not stable. I'm just going other room, so maybe here is a better connection. Just close here, is that okay? Yeah. Sorry. But maybe I can turn my picture on again. Okay, is this better?
It does appear to be better, yes, thank you.
So even though that online connection seems to be so easy, it sometimes is not. And if I could, or if we could, we would be together in person, I guess, and spend the time in person. But so staying at home and working from home and connecting with the community, I mean, it was a rich and is a rich blessing for all of us that we have Zoom, right? But at the same time, I felt this is also showing the limitation of online communication very clearly. I mean, for me, Reiki is hands-on my body, on other bodies. And of course, we have second degree, which is also wonderful. But the basic foundation is really hands-on and physical connection. And so I felt this was a great learning time to miss the physical and to learn out of that how important it is. And and it was also challenging for those who are holding a public practice and a teaching practice of not being able to do that, or maybe thinking, how can we do it differently? I did not really go there because it was clear for me, if people can't come, then I can't teach them. That's just so. Maybe this is my stubbornness too, probably, I don't know. but it is more I just feel a strong connection of the importance of being together in physical presence. I mean, we work a lot online. We basically, if you can, you don't even need to leave your house anymore to receive everything, right? You can order your groceries, somebody's delivering it. You don't need to see anybody if not necessary. But I think this is doing something not so good to humans. This is not really healthy. If we are staying too long in isolation and not having a physical connection, somebody touching us, I think this is just not healthy at all. And when it's about teaching Reiki, and I think this is one of the questions you have sent me, is it okay if I just jump to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Then for me, it is a sacred space in which I invite students to come when they learn Reiki. Actually, already when I give a treatment, but deeper than when I teach a first degree class. And right now, when I had been to France and teach a class there, I heard from the students exactly that, what I hear from many. Oh, so wonderful to be together in person and to have physical connection, and somebody's touching me, and they actually shared all that, what I hold as importance of teaching in person. And yeah, just to be together in the physical presence, student and master, in this physical presence of the initiation space or initiation space, and learning together, hearing each other, maybe sharing food together in the same room. There are so many tiny little details. We might think that they're not important, but basically they are very, very important. And so I don't see an option to let go of that. But I can only speak for my own practice and my own teaching practice and for what I hold. Yeah, I see also that many making sacrifices or have to find different ways how to teach. During the pandemic, when in Austria, it was not allowed to meet with more than 5 people for quite a while. The classes had been tiny, and it just brought a different quality. It was different, but yeah, I just learned that the physical presence is much more important than I thought. And just recently, I wrote a little article for the Reiki Alliance, a newsletter. And in this article, I tried to talk about that a little more. And already the fact that the way we are communicating online, right, writing emails, there's also this missing of physical connection. It would be different if I would write a handwritten letter, right? Or maybe it might be also seen as old-fashioned in the way I ask the students to bring the money for the class in cash in an envelope. I mean, when do we pay in cash, right? Quite often it's just paying by card, by PayPal. There's no physical something anymore. And I find these envelopes with money so much more than just the amount of money they're bringing. There is, or maybe I am just too attached to the physical world. That's also possible. I don't know. But for me, it is an important element. Yeah. So now I've spoken a lot. So maybe there are questions from you.
I think there's some really good points that you raise, Johannes, and that especially in that teaching space, for those initiations to be done face to face, all of those small energetic connections that are made when we're holding space in that sacredness is really valuable and really important. Being face to face with your master during those times of passing down the initiation. Yeah, absolutely. I think we do actually have some questions, Amy, do we?
We do.
Coming.
There's a few things that have come through, and there's been a couple of comments of appreciation as well, Johannes. It's been wonderful to hear you speak of the importance of physical touch and the quality of physical presence. I think that's something that resonates with our membership at Reiki Australia. So thank you for sharing with us. I'll start with question 1 that we have had come through, and it's that it was back, you were speaking of your master candidacy with Phyllis, and that lasted 4 years. So can you share, a general overview of the process that you had during that candidacy with Phyllis?
Well, where to start? Well, I think it was October 2013. I first attended a master candidacy retreat in the Netherlands, in Newkerk. And at that time, I had not yet asked Phyllis to be her student. I don't know why, actually, because looking back, it was clear anyway all the time. But I had some inner processes to do, some inner work. And then after that workshop, when I was clear with that, I traveled home. And then I sent an email if I could meet with her again. I need to talk with her because I knew she would be around Europe. And then we tried to find out when to meet and where to meet. And after a while, she said, you know what? I mean, we also could have a Skype call. That's much easier than you traveling all over Europe to talk with me. I thought, well, I'm not sure. Is this appropriate? Can one do this online? You see again, this physical presence and the importance. But then I thought, well, okay, let's do it. She's right. That's maybe easier. So we had a call and I finally brought forth my question and if I could become her student. And I was very, very nervous and excited. And yeah. And she was smiling and laughing and said, well, of course, I was waiting for quite a while because we were working for many years together. And then she invited me to come to another master candidacy retreat with only her students. That was in various segments in the United Kingdom. And in these 4 years, we had several of these meetings that were lasting a week, in which Phyllis wanted to give space so that we could get to know each other with her, because some of them she did not know so well, but also to create a group, a supporting group, a peer group, so to speak. I guess she also wanted to observe us. How are we being? How are we developing in the group? How we are? We also traveled to Japan in 2015 already together, which was a wonderful journey and a very beautiful time together to explore the cultural backgrounds, the spiritual backgrounds, the spiritual origins, not background, origins of our practice together with our master. Yeah, and going through a process of inner development, of developing a relationship with the practice, with the energy of Reiki, to develop the inner space, to open that space for Reiki, and also to develop an inner place so that we can hold students, right? And this whole time of master candidacy was not only the training on these in these weeks or weekends. Sometimes we met. It was the whole of the time. Sometimes we had been in touch with her via email. She also wanted us to attend at least once a Ki Aikido workshop with Paul Mitchell, because she saw the benefit of that work in communication skills, how that would support people. Yeah, and she just challenged everyone, found in everyone something to push, maybe a little button to challenge that person in the development. And she always did it with a lot of care, a lot of mindfulness, and with being very clear that the path of Reiki is about to be the most authentic and become most authentic of yourself, and don't become somebody else. Don't pretend to be somebody else, which sounds quite easy and simple, but isn't often. We also, during these 4 years, we also had been invited to be part and witness and observe classes she had been teaching, first and second degree classes, so that we could learn from her how she's doing that, how she had learned doing it from Hawaii Takata. Yeah, and then at a certain point, she said, well, feels like it's time. It's time to think about initiation, about master initiation. And yeah, and then we made this, I think it was Phyllis coming up with that idea to travel again to Japan and do the initiations there. And our master training we had a few months later in Wales, because I don't know actually why. There was some reason why we did not do the training also in Japan. And it was, these 4 years were, yeah, personal developmental process to broaden and to make more inner space for the practice of Reiki, to question ourselves maybe also. Yeah, to be in process. That's very simple, but I have no other words than that. Yeah. For some, this master candidacy time was much longer than 4 years. It is not that she said 4 years and that's it. She always supported the student in their own development. So for some, it was maybe longer. I doubt that it was shorter, because she was very clear that there should be a certain amount of time for preparation, because time and timing and preparation was something she paid a lot of attention to, which then had led me later complaining, why didn't I have enough time for preparation to become her successor, right? Till I had to figure out, well, there was quite some time for preparation. But that was one of the key elements for her, to have time for preparing. Also for those who have family, what does it do to a family if one wants to become a Reiki master? What does that change? What dynamics are coming into family then? Yeah, and in that time, she always was available for our questions and our challenges we brought up, often answering our questions with even more questions, so that we went home with more question marks than we came. But that's what a good master is doing, right? Asking questions and not bringing answers, actually. Yeah.
Thank you, Johannes, for sharing that with us. Johannes, we had another question. There are a few more come through, so if you don't mind, we'll just jump right into them.
Sure.
And I want to invite Helen. Helen has a question she'd like to ask.
Thanks, Amy. Hi, Johannes.
Hi.
I just wanted to ask you about, I really feel that the impacts of the pandemic over the last couple of years, and, you know, we've got a war happening as well. And I just sort of feel that, I don't know how to really explain it, but I sort of feel that there's some space that's being created, and perhaps an opportunity for Reiki and other natural holistic healing modalities to really emerge again, and to become more, I guess, applied more widely in the mainstream communities in terms of health and well-being. And so in that context, I wanted to sort of say that and ask you that, you know, my experience with Reiki over the last 16 years, you know, I sort of feel that it's arguably the most widely known and practiced energy healing modality in the world. However, I've noticed, and you know, there are many branches of Reiki that exist. However, I've noticed that there is some division within the global Reiki community. And I'm wondering, as, you know, the Grand Master, whether you hold any visions or hopes for a more unified global Reiki community to, there's so many of us, to actually really come together, we could create a bigger kind of impact, I guess, and hold a deeper space.
Yeah. I think if we want to go into a direction of connecting and embracing our differences and creating a field or a place where we could meet, I think the first step is to acknowledge the differences and acknowledge that these differences are not enemies, or is not something wrong, or someone is better than the other or more than the other. I think this is the basic place of where we need to start. And when, I don't know if you've heard, but when the pandemic started, I created with a few friends this offering for the Reiki community to do self-treatment together online. I was in the beginning doubtful about this idea. I thought, well, who would show up to do self-treatment in front of a computer? That's crazy. But okay, let's try. So I was very wrong. Many people are joining ever since, every Monday. For 4 months this year, we did it daily to be in this process with the war in Europe. And what I've learned is that we keep this circle very, very, very simple. This maybe sound rude, but I don't care from which form of practice someone is coming. I don't care how many years someone is practicing, or that's just none of my business. The invitation is clear. This is the circle. Come, we do self-treatment. Of course, there is a part, people ask me to let go of it, to drop it, so that it would be more inclusive, because I'm honoring my ancestors in this lineage. And I said, well, I can't do that because this is my home I'm coming from, right? And if I invite my friends to come home, then I don't change something. I just give them all I have, right? And so maybe this would be something in the future we might have to think about, probably, I don't know. But to simply come together and practice and do it, I think is one of the most important steps. Because if we keep talking and not practicing, and talking about the practice, and it's sometimes like, I don't know, we could read each other recipes and cooking books, but never cook together. Then it's like, what's the point? We are hungry. We need to feed each other, right? We need to get together. But to simply be willing or able to, I would not say overcome the differences, hold them lightly. Be aware that there are differences because there are different histories, how we came to Reiki, and to see that they're all precious. They're all beautiful. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just gifts. If we would let go and make all the same, then I don't know, we would miss a lot. We would miss a lot of our identities. We would miss a lot of our wisdom, of our challenging times. But to simply reach out to each other and hands-on our bodies, I mean, how simple is that? That's really not so difficult. So I would rather encourage to be together in person. And that's what I do when I travel to these larger Reiki events. We never know who's coming and we're not asking, right? It's the only thing is, well, it's about Reiki. And maybe there might be also, when there are big meetings, there might be people who have never been practicing Reiki, but they feel attracted. And that's wonderful. Just come. And on the other hand, I think it's also important that we hold places which are uniquely for those who commit to a certain form of practice, right? It's not an either or question. It's both is important, to be open, to connect with others, but also to hold a place where I feel, well, and here it is this only, and I'm meeting with those who hold this practice the way I do. Not as a conflicting thing, but as holding both. And I hope that this would grow. I hope that this, and I see it, that this is happening. the tricky part is to overcome maybe this feeling right or wrong thinking, which is happening quite easy and quite fast in many other communities, not only Reiki, and all around the world. It's often about right or wrong, and it's like feeling bad because I feel wrong and this person is more right. It's like we don't get anywhere with this. But this is also something I have to learn for myself, not to feel bad when being wrong, maybe. And also, maybe also looking forward and not constantly backward, right? I mean, it's important to know about history so that we can understand the present time, but connect beyond that. And what I've learned through this war in Europe, which is actually quite close to where I live. It's, I don't know, a few hours by train or by car, and then there's this war happening. I have friends who are living in Kiev, still there, and we are in touch every day, and they're practicing Reiki, and they're working with me for this larger Reiki self-treatment circle. And to simply stick together and practice. And I heard from many who cannot come to the self-treatment circle because they're in the bomb shelters, but they're doing self-treatment in the bomb shelters, you know. I think this is so natural to put hands on that it is really connecting with this folk art, that it's just emerging naturally to do that. The other day I saw a little video from people in the bomb shelters in Kiev, and they were singing. And I thought, yes, this is what humans are doing. This is so natural. You are together with others. It is a difficult and painful and yeah, it's about life and death situation, and you just connect and start singing. That's very human, right? And as well as hands-on is very human. I mean, to hug each other, to hold each other, to make a simple connection on somebody else's body. That's just human, that's natural. That's why we call it Reiki, a natural healing method or healing practice, right? So I think in this whole time of pandemic and war and then climate change and everything, right, we have no other way than going back to what natural resources we have in our bodies first. That's why I so emphasize on doing self-treatment, because this is the closest, this is where I start and not go away from. If I'm clear with this part here, then I can connect with others and start supporting others. But in this challenging time, I think we have to start really with ourselves first, which does not mean not to ask for support or not to ask for exchange treatment. That's not what I mean, but to have a practice in which we can daily or as often as we need connect and do a full self-treatment. I think this can be the beginning of a change for a larger field of energy. That sounds big, maybe. I don't know, but this is maybe my hope that something like that would happen. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Johannes, I am conscious of our time. We did have one more question, if that's okay.
Please, of course,
Now
I have time. I'm on holidays, so don't worry about my time.
Beautiful, beautiful. And we don't want to take up too much of your holiday time either.
No, that's okay.
You've touched on this kind of indirectly or a little bit maybe directly, but you spoke of your 4 years doing your master candidacy. And was there an actual time that you recommend between training as a master or a master teacher and then going into teaching? Could you put a timeline on that?
So at the end, so to speak, of the master candidacy time was the initiation. And then few months later, we had our final training, the master training, in which we learned how to teach, how to hold the first and second degree and how to hold all that. And after that, it was like, okay, go ahead and start doing it. Just have your first class. Phyllis was very clear, and when she said, no advertising, students will come, put out the information, but no advertising. And again, she was right. And I think she loved being right. Because of course I heard what she said and I did not listen, because I made wonderful flyers, advertising material, blah, 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 which I never used. It's still there in boxes and I never used it, because people showed up when they need to show up, when I was ready, when I internally had the space for a group of people coming to learn first degree. And so it was very surprising for me that my first class I taught was in French in France, because a friend said if she could organize the class. I said, of course. So it was really what we learned in this time with Phyllis was to listen to our bodies about time and timing, and to feel and recognize when we would be ready for a class, and that this listening to ourselves, to our bodies, to the energetic of Reiki in our bodies is larger than the brain and the making plans thing, right? So, but basically it was, well, the training is finished, off you go and teach your class. And some of us, they had the first class 2 weeks after the master training. And because she wanted us to really teach and not just to do the Reiki mastery path and not teaching. She really encouraged us to really go on and teach, and to come back with your questions, and let's meet again, and let's sit in circle and see what we continue to learn from each other. She was very clear that the end of the master training is not the end of the master training, that this is another beginning place, and then you start in a different way. And new questions will come up, and then we sit together if we can. And that's why she offered often master circles for masters in general, but also master circles for those she had initiated or mentored. Yeah. But basically it was, well, you're trained, now go, make your own experience, be brave. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Does that answer the question?
So I think after 4 years of doing your mastery, she thought you were well and truly ready, throwing you in the deep end again.
I think she also would not have had initiated us if she would have seen that need more time for someone. And she did this. I experienced and heard this from others, that they have thought they would be ready, and then in a deep conversation, they realized, oh no, there are a few questions Phyllis had been asking, and there's more time. I need more time and more reflection or preparation. And again, she was very clear that faster is not better.
Yeah.
More time is much better. Take as much time as you can. In our situation when, which was also a little bit pushing maybe, was that Phyllis was very open with her cancer. And towards the end of our training and around our master initiation, she shared with a few other master candidates. They had been out there, but not really so committed in connecting with her. She shared with them and said, well, listen, we have to end this path together because I'm terminally ill. This is just so. There's a group who is preparing with me for quite a while now, and I will initiate them, but that's it then. I have to end this. So she was really, beside being a wonderful Reiki master, also she embodied clear communication, which was sometimes painful, because she pointed at topics we might not want to talk about, death and dying, for instance. I mean, that's not such a beautiful topic. But she was clear, well, we need to talk about. And she started this conversation at our first master candidacy retreat through watching a movie together, which was called Departure. Departure was the title of the movie, and it was about the Japanese family company who is we are undertaker, is that the word?
Yeah.
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 And all around the topic of death and dying in Japanese culture. And for us, it was like, wow, we know you're ill, but why? And so, well, we need to talk about it. That's just so. So I think that was another thing we learned through her, to be open, be honest, be very honest, and don't avoid uncomfortable issues. I'm still practicing and getting better with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Incredible advice, I think. And in that space, there's so much that Reiki can offer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
But it's maybe also important, when we had been together in the master candidacy time, we practiced daily Reiki together. We daily exchanged treatments. That had a very important core place in the time together. And of course, cooking and food was something very important for Phyllis, because she enjoyed food a lot and she was a great cook. And sometimes she challenged us and she wanted us to cook for the group, everybody on a different day. And when we traveled to Japan, she had selected the best restaurants in Kyoto to go to. She always took so much care that everybody get what we could eat, because of all the not only eating habits, but the, what is the word?
Allergies and
everything.
Yeah.
So she did always a lot of, paid a lot of attention and a lot of work on what to eat, what not to eat. And she was amazing, really amazing.
Wonderful.
We met a lot, to be honest. Yeah. Yeah.
Incredible journey, Johannes. We have
the background here is Peter. You see Peter, and he is actually, he also was.
Hi, Peter.
He was in my group with Phyllis, and he spent quite a while in Australia. He got actually stuck in Australia in the pandemic. He could not travel back to Spain or Europe. Yeah.
Not a bad place to be stuck, we would argue.
I think so. He was not only sad, he was quite happy.
So we have come to time, and like Amy said, we don't want to take up more of your time than was promised, but you have brought up some incredible points. I think that's been lovely to be reminded of, and especially I think that importance of touch, in person connection, which is the theme of our whole 20th celebration, is connection, and the importance of daily self practice, which I think sometimes as people are offering Reiki to others, sometimes that can get a little bit forgotten. So I think it's nice to hear you speak so highly of reinforcing that importance of self Reiki. So I would like to just thank you so very, very much for joining us tonight. Amy and Brenda's not here, but I do want to just give a shout out to Amy and Brenda, who have worked tirelessly in the background to bring all of this together. So thank you, Amy. And everyone who's present, we would love your feedback. And if you do have any further questions, we would be happy to hear those. You can flick us an email, and we do look forward to seeing you all at our other events that we've got planned coming up in the next couple of weeks. So that will bring our evening to a close. And Johannes, just humble gratitude. Thank you so much. An absolute pleasure to be able to spend this time with you.
Thank you for bringing us together and for holding the circle for us.
You're welcome.
And whenever there's more you want, just send me an email and we connect and wait to more.
Thank you, Johannes.
Excellent. We shall remember that.
Yes.
Maybe
And
one day you can come to Australia to visit.
Exactly. That would be then the next much better step, to fly down under from Austria to Australia and see what we can do together.
Yes, we'd definitely love to host you one day. That would be wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye bye. Sleep
Good
well.
night.
Good night, and you have a good day, Johannes.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye.